Chapter 183. The Sovereign smiles and then, she is gone. The air shakes with a trace of her passage. I notice that my gladiators have gone with her, and so has Machias. One by one, the warriors facing us pick themselves up and split, heading deeper into the forest in clumps. Only one stays behind, a man I have faced and failed to kill. His silvery armor shows signs of damage where Sinead's rapier hit, while his shield looks flayed, gnawed by Rose's thorns during a heated exchange. Nevertheless, he remains unruffled. We wait in silence until the last of the warriors has left. When the silence returns to the moonlit meadow, the man bows lightly, keeping his eyes on us as if to challenge us to run. We do not. "I am Cadras, seeker of stolen memories. Welcome to our court," he greets. His voice is cold and cultured, his traits handsome and somewhat melancholic, from the unsmiling jaw to the thin line of his lips. The pale hair and pink eyes reinforce the appearance of alien aloofness, though the most striking feature is the pair of hair ears jutting up from his skull. They are white and covered in fine hair. They must feel quite fluffy, but I will not attempt to pet them because I am a mature person in control of her own impulses. All right, it appears I find him rather charming, now that we are no longer trying to skewer each other. "I am Ariane of the Nirari," I greet and return. Then I remember those folk tales about not giving an elf one's true name. Ah, well, I suppose Sinead would have warned me. I hope. "Sinead, Prince of Summer," my guide replies. "Your task has been chosen," Cadras explains. "Please follow me. I will assist with its completion." Without waiting for our approval, he turns and walks between two dark trees, the shadowy branches forming an arch over his armored figure. Over us, the blood moon lingers, perhaps disappointed that little blood was shed. All those nobles speak adult-like Ian. Fortunately, I am able to follow and provide basic answers, but I can feel some of the subtext escaping me. No matter. I have no choice. We move deeper into the silent forest. "Any idea what we should expect?" I ask Sinead. "The Seekers only ever do one thing, retrieve stolen memories. They never act for any other reason, and they always act when this reason is given." "We sometimes act for other reasons," Cadras says from the front. "Though few are foolish enough to give them." His voice sounds both sad and mocking. "The mission of the Seekers is sacrosanct. No one should interfere in any way, including by taking a similar appearance in a cut-off world, apparently," Sinead says with scorn. "The girl was taken for one of us and you did not see it fit to correct this misunderstanding," Cadras retorts. "Should I take responsibility for the mistakes of others?" "When you mislead them, you should, Prince of Summer. If you find those terms unacceptable, I can call your mother back." "We shall keep our word, thank you," I interrupt before something unfortunate happens to my essence. His answer leads to another question. "If you are the child of a sovereign, does that not make you a prince?" I ask. "Yet you did not present yourself as one." "The Seekers have chosen a different path," Sinead says. "If you will let me enlighten the outsider child about my own family, Child of Summer?" Cadras suggests, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, now you're voluble and prone to explanations?" Sinead replies. "Enough. I tell them." "Ugh, they are supposed to be this ancient and mysterious species. Why do I feel like I am dealing with two grumpy teenagers?" "Please tell me of the mission and of the Seekers," I ask. Cadras considers my words in silence, then he sighs. "It will be easier to explain who we are so you understand what we do. We are the Seekers. We have forfeited our royalty, our legacy, so no one could steal what once was ever again. I never was a prince. Mother gave me life long after she took on the crystal." Sinead mentioned a deal before. "So he knew you looked like one of us, and did nothing. We must remain inviolate or our sacred mission will be compromised." "You have said that before. What is so sacred about stolen memories? Many things get stolen all the time. Memories are different. Memories are the past, Cadmus grumbles. A long time ago, there was a prince of the court of shadows. The prince was weak in body, frail and sickly. He skulked as his kind were wont to do, trying to be forgotten by all so they would not hurt him. One day, he wished the foe had forgotten him. He wished the memory of him left the mind of the foe, just like his presence escaped the attention of others. I remember one of their kind, I realize. Mr. Elusive, who helped us free the Fae from the Enaru fortress. He could make me forget about him. What a terrifying ability. He wished for the memory to disappear with great desire, Cadmus continues, and the darkness was with him, and the darkness loved him. It suffused his being with every prayer until, one day, he succeeded. The Dark One plucked the memory from his foe's head and it was no more. And he liked it. Cadmus turns his head, pink eyes searching for the moon with a peculiar form of longing. The Dark One found more memories he did not like, and he erased them from the head of their owners. When they were erased from enough minds, from enough meaningful, powerful minds. Then the related events. I whisper, realizing the implications. Were gone, of course. Those who insisted things had happened because the memories remained were scorned and mocked, and the proofs they pursued had disappeared as well. Suddenly, heirs found themselves deposed. Children were never born. All the while, the Dark One's influence grew. With a shadowy hand, he could stop a dynasty without them even being the wiser. A princess might have been beautiful and strong of arms. He might have been unable to face her, but what if she were never born? By the Watcher, what a nightmare. All the achievements of someone could be annihilated because someone made it so. The past was getting mangled. Cracks opened in reality. But there were some who noticed. He stops and turns, his hand grasping at the figure of the moon above the skeletal canopy. Fingers only grasped air. He would never reach it. We were hunters then, or so I was told. Our rides lit the skies of every sphere, but the Queen saw the spheres unravel and knew something had to be done. She took it upon herself to act. She hunted for a solution and found the crystal mind. For a price, it would turn her spirit to perfection. She accepted. She found the traces of the Dark One and tracked them back to its source for one last hunt. She found him, weak and mewling under her glare. He died, and the world healed in time. We will never hunt across the skies again. We will never hear the call of the blood moon. Our minds are as crystal, eternal and unbreakable, but cold. It is not every day I feel pity. Cadmus is not weak. He is strong for a purpose he did not choose, yet must be fulfilled. Some of us are old enough to remember the before. I do not know if it is a blessing or a curse. There is silence while we walk, then I hear it, barely a whisper. I wish I could be angry about it. You are immune whether you want it or not? I ask. Of course. What is immunity, if one could opt out of it? There are so many ways to sway even the most stubborn of fools. Really? I ask with disbelief. When space is vast and time no longer matters, much of what you believe set in stone can be eroded, Sinead notes in a sober voice. And so I cannot be made to feel much. There is no way to avoid the deal at all, I suppose. I ask. Cadmus faces me, a light sneer in his face, but it disappears when he sees I meant nothing by it. Outsider child. I can be a seeker or I can be nothing at all. The court of the blood moon is gone. So, I am a seeker. We scour the worlds for those who would rob them of their past. And when we find them, the pink of his left eye fades, and I realize it is merely an illusion. His eyeball was torn off and replaced by a sphere of shining diamond. I peer into its depth and recoil, struck by an atrocious pain. It is so vivid that I moan despite the evanescence. A crack reopens in my mind palace. Ugh, by the Watcher. Making us must have suffered so much. Mother was merciful. It was very brave of him to face us for you. I threw the winged one into the lion's jaw without realizing it. Between the gladiators and the flutterlings, it appears I have spent the last day charging off a cliff, allies in tow. The spheres are too strange. I must exert greater caution here, before I am truly punished. By the Watcher, I feel like an ignorant fledgling again. Mother intended for you to live. If she wanted you to die, she would not have brought my siblings and I. Are you all hers? I ask, surprised. The Queen of the Blood Moon has lost much of her powers, but her children are many and strong, Sinead remarks. Yes. We share roots with many courts. On a related note, please note that Mother is not with child at the moment, Prince of Summer. Should you wish to leave a mark, he mocks. Sinead does not look comfortable with the idea. On one hand, I do not care what this backstabbing, arrogant twit is with his nethers. On the other hand, I do. A cold and calculating part of me realizes that he has betrayed me for my sake at great risk for himself. He has also had my back ever since. Another part of me realizes that I am rationalizing and accepting a terrible breach of trust, one born from a lack of respect for my own judgment. He has been unapologetic about that breach, and has not tried to justify himself, which can only mean one thing. He expects that I will forgive him within the next couple of centuries, should I survive. It annoys me to no end that he could be right. I frown. Our eyes meet, and he does not avert his gaze. We are here, Cadmus announces. The forest opens on a crater of incredible size. The dark loam disappears, fused into volcanic glass at the edge of the prodigious impact. A city stands at its center far below. The sight fills me with a sense of melancholy. Great roads traveled by people and caravans emerge from the surrounding forests and plains, the other sides so far away that even my sight cannot catch them. They converge at the bottom of the crater, at the heart of the sacrificed court in the base of the Seekers of Lost Memories. No, their capital. It is mind-bogglingly large, so large, in fact, that I have trouble apprehending it. How can a city grow to such proportions? The immensity of the sprawling metropolis drowns me with a myriad of sights, people, and places I can see from up here. It exhibits a dazzling collection of styles and trends, with many visible spires and statues clearly looted from somewhere else. The mad labyrinth of captured architecture grows denser closer to the heart, but then, it stops abruptly. The remaining towers are clear crystal, symmetrical and perfect yet also still. Unchanging. Like a prosthesis at the end of a graceful limb. There must be millions of Fae living in there, their essence truncated forever. It takes us a good hour to reach even the outskirts of the urban landscape at a good pace. We stop by stables and are offered massive elks with muscular bodies to carry us inward. They move as swiftly as the wind across clogged streets, its inhabitants wearing cloaks and robes in earthy colors. They part before us like a sea. Cadmus never slows down. Eventually, we leave the more lively districts behind and find a massive complex of blockish design, with crystal pillars supporting its massive roof. We cross its cyclopean rooms unimpeded by the halberd-wielding guards. Eventually, we reach a warehouse that could fit an entire fleet at dry dock. Circular archways dot its surface, while armories and supply rooms line the sides. Cadmus wordlessly guides us to one such arch as it hums, power coursing through its mineral innards. Could you tell us about the mission? I finally blurt out. I hate to break the silence to ask my questions, however the past few days have shown beyond the shadow of a doubt that I am out of my depth. I would rather ask and look stupid than act and confirm it. Simple enough. We will visit a princess court and find who among them has removed memories, and why. Once this is done, we will punish the guilty then leave. So it has been done before, and so shall it be. Will we have time enough before the next trial? I ask with some concerns. We will, Sinead answers with more certainty than I deem necessary. You seem quite certain, Cadmus notes idly. I am. She would not give us a task we could not accomplish in time. Remember what she said. We get punished now, but Revis gets punished later. What would be the best lesson to one who uses the Seekers to win a game? To cause him to lose the game, in the end, thus proving that there are no benefits. Nevertheless, there is a chasm between plan and execution, as I have learned for too many times. It would be enough to make Revas suffer losses as a warning. It will be up to us to turn this warning for him into a warning for the world at large. Or worlds, as it were. Cadus looks on mournfully at the gate as it finishes stabilizing. A shimmering blue surface covers the aperture. "Ladies first," he offers. I grumble and walk through the thin membrane. Cold hits me abruptly, and even more abruptly because I can feel it, really, for the first time in an eternity. The chill seeps into my bones, strongly enough that it seems to freeze parts of my mind as well. The idea of warmth dulls until I can no longer even summon it. In front of me, a snow-covered plain leads to a vast frozen lake, with mountains farther in the distance. They rise under a gloomy sky, their surface cobalt and sapphire. The only warm color comes from the crimson berries adorning the nearby bushes, thick and alluring like freshly spilled blood. The aurora starts to shine. By the watcher, I know where we are. "Welcome to winter," Cadus comments offhandedly. Sinead glares around, clearly displeased. Strangely, the gold of his armor still shines in the dim light. He sighs, and a puff of foggy breath escapes his nostrils. "Will this be a problem?" I ask, suddenly unsure. "If you were asking about my powers, they will not be severely hampered. Winter and summer do not oppose each other as concepts here, not like they do in your world. The Winter Fae are not my enemies because of their origin," he replies. "But because they are criminally insane," Cadus finishes. "And the culprit, if I may use the term, is the Winter Fae?" "Most assuredly, and a powerful one too. A noble at the very least. Mastering the shadows of oblivion requires some measure of power and skill, thankfully. Come, the city is that way." We walk closer to the shore and I find myself uncomfortable in the aurora as it glows, drinking in the surrounding magic. Its aura of cold increases, though my companions do not seem to mind. As we approach, I stumble to a stop. The clear reflection of a castle extends on the limpid surface of the lake, a perfect Gothic construct of spires and gargoyles. I try to discern the illusion that hides the castle, or creates it, but cannot manage. It would be too embarrassing for a dangerous lady like myself to question, point, or otherwise conduct experiments while we could be under observation, and so I will refrain. My curiosity will be soon assuaged in any case. As we move on, I realize the reflection is growing larger. A sense of vertigo takes hold of me, and I falter on the smooth surface of the lake. A school of translucent fishes swims under my feet before darting away when a larger one catches their scent. They disappear behind a reverted guardhouse. The castle is inversed. It digs into the lake, ice maintained through unknown means. Soon, we reach the start of a chasm. Frosted stairs descend into depths laced blue and white, doors leading to different parts of the castle. The upside-down structure does not seem to bother its inhabitants. Clad in furs and skins, humanoids with gray skin and pointy features barter and growl in the depression. They are messy, clawed, aggressive mix of lean races showing more teeth than needed. A savage crowd. As I watch, a bear-like man seizes a shorter one, punching him with hairy mitts. Scarlet blood spills on the permafrost, which drinks it greedily. One of the small creature's siblings jumps on the man's shoulders and bites his cheek, deep. He roars. Battle is joined. We move on. The deeper we go, and the cleaner the furs are. Windows of transparent ice show the watery abyss beyond and the strange fauna living there. I catch hints of silvery scales and distended maws. And half-eaten corpses quickly snap between hooked fangs. The nobles of the court of winter have eyes like the abyss or like fire, if fire were blue and froze man to death. There is a stark beauty to them, one that makes no effort to hide the needle fangs. Those who walk those corridors have brought their nature under control, but they have certainly not forgotten it. I feel at home already. Soon, we arrive at the gates of what should be the tallest keep, but ends up being the deepest point. The timid sun barely reaches it anymore. Guards in armor of ice and fur open them without a word. Their blue eyes follow us like wolves follow a wounded elk. Nevertheless, we are let in without issue. Some of the guards even watch the aurora with undisguised greed. They will get 4 feet of crystallized essence down the gullet before I let them even touch it. Grumbling to myself, I almost gasp when we enter the throne room. The ground is made entirely of glass. The bottom of the lake has risen into a mountain to meet the massive castle in the middle. Underwater, fluorescent life gives us all the illumination we need to meet the court, its nobles in rich cloaks garnered with precious gems. The hilts of blades peek out from under heavy fur like medals on an officer's chest, all part of the dress. We progress 3 abreast to the throne room where, thankfully, it is not the King of Winter who sits. The aura he reveals is nevertheless extremely powerful, more powerful than Sinead's by a significant margin. If I were to face him here, I would undoubtedly lose. My eyes lower and, once again, I fail to reconcile what I see for a short moment. A woman in a luscious dress kneels in front of him, her hands on his lap, and her head bobbing up and down over his nether. The man on the throne lounges backward on the high chair with a hand on his sword and the other grasping through the woman's pale locks. I can guess what is happening. Ugh. Ugh. I knew Sinead called those people degenerates, but this is a little too much. Unfortunately, no one else shares my absolute outrage and terrible discomfort before this deviance. I am compelled by the circumstances to remain mum and endure. If we were on my lands, I would kick the girl in the backside with much strength, solving both problems at once. Unfortunately, I have enough time to inspect the man's dark iron armor and delicate, fiendish traits while the show continues. At some point, his smile turns into a grimace of bliss. He grabs the woman's head with both hands, shoving her forward. I wish I could drive my claws into my ears and save myself the agony of listening to those gagging sounds, but alas, it is not because they are being improper that I will lower myself to their level. I still wish I could just gut them where they are. Thank you, daughter. You may withdraw. Oh hell no. You. Honestly, I have not appreciated the unflappable stomach that comes with my nature enough. I would have retched otherwise. You. These incestuous inbred degenerates. The woman turns, smiles at us, then she sashays to his side with no hint of shame, although to show it here in this den of wolves would be foolish indeed. She appears rather young compared to her father, which makes it even worse. Poor thing. I hope this was a figure of speech, and that they are not truly related, at least. Pa, who do I hope to deceive? They share the same cruel features. The lord of the place sighs with contentment, then grabs to the edge of his seat for an ash-colored circlet gathered around the shimmering azure gemstone, which he places upon his amused brow. He leans forward to inspect us with interest. I notice that he has made no effort to hide his flaccid manhood. Pig. What do the bunnies want with me? He asks with a bored voice. Is there a violator in my court? Yes, Duke Nash. There is. The men and women around us tense. They do not move and their aura barely ripples, but I can tell the mood has shifted, somehow. The noble closest to me takes a deep breath and he starts to smell like fear. He is not the only one. It appears the seeker is to have a reputation. I wonder which little mouse told you, instead of bringing this to my attention. No matter. How will you seek the perpetrator? Is there any strange occurrence nearby? I am concerned by mysterious events or discordant perception. There is one thing. The Duke considers, tapping a finger against his chiseled jaw. The beast of Gildring. Some say it is a man, others that it is a feline creature as long as a war machine and quite destructive. Strangely, I am not quite sure what to make of it. That sounds promising, Your Grace. Where may we track this beast of Gildring? You may try, he says. And if you were to succeed, do bring me the head. Very well, Cadus readily agrees. Cern will show you the way. One of the Fey nobles gracefully bows. He is one that smells the most of terror here, making me wonder if the Duke has some way of telling. What am I saying? He must have a way to perceive fear. This is Winter, after all. Without a word, we move back out of the throne room. The gates clang shut behind us. Many glare at us, though none bar our path. We walk out of the inverted castle immediately to my disappointment, as I would have loved to explore it a bit more. I shall have to accept that I am on a schedule. The year I have to find dragon blood feels far too short now that I caught a glimpse of the scope of what several worlds imply. Our guide walks sullenly in front of us to the edge of the forest where we appeared. It looks quite dense from here, with snow-clad forests extending far. So, a duke? I ask as we walk. Does summer have dukes as well? We use different titles to reflect a different situation, Sinead explains in a careful voice, his attention on the world around us and the hunchback of the noble facing us. Winter is fragmented, compared to the other courts. The children of winter follow the herds and the berries. Our land is harsh, Cern says in a raspy voice. He still smells afraid, though he tries to put on a brave face. Scaredy pray. Wait, no feeding on the locals, Ariane. Diplomacy comes first. I am not even really thirsty after the terrible indulgence over Void Moor a week ago. Yes, Sinead comments, caressing the hilt of his rapier. Ariane dear, we will need some bloodless privacy, if you may. Cern squeals when my talon clamp on his neck. His face is thin, elfin, with the needle teeth of his kin. His eyes are two pits but he sees me and I see him and he is mine. You smell deliciously afraid, boy. Terror. The man is a bit of a coward. A survivor too. He tastes like a rabbit fighting an owl, only one kick away from salvation. You are scared, are you not? Do not worry. We are strong, and we will spare you. You get to live another day. Are you relieved, Cern? Yes. You are quite relieved. You live under our shadow. It is safe there. Walk by our side and relax. Yes. As you say, Milady. Good. I return my attention to the prince and the seeker. Sinead nods in appreciation. Quite elegant for a rush job, Purpot, he starts, but then catches himself. We are no longer at the puppet level of a relationship. Cadras has averted his gaze, and I realize why soon. I catch a hint of pink and my hold over Cern falters. His diamond mind truly suffers no artifice, not on him and not even around him. So you wanted some quiet. Duke Nash is guilty, Cadras declares without preamble. He is the one who stole memories. Wow, that was, fast? I observe. Mother sent us to complete a simple mission. You would be unable to help me complete a more complex one before the next trial is set to happen. I am surprised he would allow us in this court, but perhaps he expected his circlet to hide the traces of his sin. It locks his spirit and protects his mind from me. Although, he cannot influence others while he wears it. Quite the irony, for a crown. And he expected it to work? I ask. The exact method I use to see his violation is unknown to most, even though they try to hide the evidence. Fortunately, the research on us is sparse. They do not leave survivors, Sinead explains. To steal a memory is a death sentence. I see. Regardless, I assume knowing is one thing, and slaying him another. He is a deadly warrior and, more importantly, we are on his land. His might will be multiplied here. Duke Nash is old. His power rivals that of princes. We must exert caution. He will come to kill us, Sinead says. Even Cadras seems surprised. Are you certain? I have faced winter many times when I first joined the court. If they risk being overwhelmed, they will retreat in the cold reaches to avoid destruction, only to return after their foes have lost patience, or if they unwisely perished in the cold. But he needs time. He will follow us, then strike us while we are weakened, both to delay reinforcement and to make a point. He will be long gone by the time your kin comes to avenge us. Cern's reactions indicate the beast is real, I say. He expects us to be slain by it, perhaps? It might be involved in all of this. We will see. You seem to be capable combatants. If Duke Nash attacks, he might also be alone. Will he not bring trusted retainers? I ask, surprised. There is no such a thing in winter, Cadmus replies. Must we contend with both the Duke and the beast? Perhaps not. We can lay an ambush around its prowling grounds, perhaps even force a three-way fight. None of this matters until we learn what we are up against and where we will fight. Or does it? This place is strange to me. Preparation will carry us a long way, Cadmus agrees. But first we must learn more. There are things in the realm of winter that even a sovereign would avoid, although we have not gone too deep yet. If we are forced into a fight now, I will provide support while you two fight as you have before. Understood. Cajoling my newest pet Cern yields little result, save for the confirmation that Duke Nash did steal memories that relate to the beast itself. Yes, extremely dangerous. Terrifying, even. How do you know this? Him. He frowns, then hisses in a strangely familiar way. You were right, lady. Something is amiss. Indeed. What can you tell me of the beast of Gildring then? What can you remember? Terror. Shame. Grief. Grief? Cern nods. Charm has not completely robbed him of his survival instincts. You must proceed with caution, mistress. Gildring is a marshy old graveyard. The land is treacherous and filled with old, angry things. Many dangers hide in its confusing fog. Some of them ought to be dead. No one in their right mind would track a man there. It is no surprise the beast would pick it as its hiding place. Despite my expectations that the trip would take longer, it only takes a couple of hours for us to find Gildring. The sun is setting by now, or at least I think so since its presence is hidden behind a deep gray cover of clouds. Mortals would have struggled between the temperature and the snow, not to mention the pervading chill. By contrast, my companions move with a grace and alacrity that masters would envy, their steps weaving between roots and ice. Cern shows that he has not survived for no reason as he guides us deeper into the land, until finally we find a marsh. The trees split before us on a series of ponds filled with brackish water. Rotting trunks and bulrush conspire with a pervading fog to block the sight. Boulders rise from the blurry distance like idle giants. Some creatures swim in those surprisingly unfrozen waters. I watch a curious thick branch half submerged under the dark liquid and realize it is a corroded spear. Another stone reveals its nature as a corroded piece of helmet. I wonder if the skull is still inside. The king defeated red-skinned invaders here, eons ago when the sphere had thawed. Some of the heat still lingers. The spheres change seasons as well. Their power waxes and wanes, Sinead whispers in English for me only. I jump up, rising dozens of feet into the air. Marshes as far as the eye can see. Some of the boulders look like gutted war machines. Perhaps they were. How do we find this beast, or traces of it? It will find us, Cern explains. Predators hunt. It is the way. So it is, I agree. We advance with caution now, blades drawn and information. Sinead and I take the lead while Cern follows, a short blade in hand. Cadmus takes the rear, vigilant. We move in silence. Water burbles ominously around us. Sometimes, an unseen creature disturbs the water in the distance. We have been spotted, Cadmus eventually informs us. Where? Sinead asks. The seeker does not answer. Instead, he points ahead, where a larger expanse of dry ground disappears under a thick cover of noxious smog. The form of a hairy beast emerges from it, or at least that is how it looks at first, but then it resolves itself in the shape of a man. He wears a surprisingly pristine white shirt of modest make under a much grimier cloak of knitted furs. The cloak gives him a large profile, but in truth his chest and arms are lean and sickly, covered in starving, corded muscles. His pale skin clings to angular, delicate features over a stubborn chin. Silky black hair contrasts with keen blue eyes, the color of the ocean under a storm. A small part of me insists that this trip in the land of fairy has been quite scenic when it comes to attractive lads. It drowns when the first hints of his scent reach my nose, and I focus on his essence. I gasp and come to a stop, the surprise too much to bear. No. It cannot be. That is impossible. And yet, Semiramis did mention it. I just could not imagine I would meet the legend in person, the man who disappeared through a unique portal centuries ago in search of a new challenge. Before he can slaughter us to the last, I take a step forward and give a polite bow. Buenas tardes, Senor Cadiz. He freezes as well. The liquid pool of his eyes rise to the cloudy skies. Es por la tarde? Quien lo ibiradico. His gaze lands on me. A cataclysmic aura smashes into mine. So powerful. No. No. I bend the knee to no one. Never again. I refuse. HSSSSS. Are you real, sign of the first? Are we both insane? He asks with deceptive calm. You are not insane, progenitor. I crossed over. It is a long tale, one we have little time for right now. I feel your nature. Show me your essence, young one. Let me taste it. Unleash it. Prove this is real. Under his calm appearance, the essence I feel bubbles and crashes with the power of a centuries-long despair. I must help him. Very well. Magna Arca. My sphere expands over him and roots covered in frosted thorns tear the muddy ground. They form a wall and rise to the sky around us, blotting it. A domain type. That means. The Watcher opens his eye, pupil contracting over us. Cadiz falls to his knees and weeps. Chapter 184. Cadiz cries in silence, a virginal marble statue in the midst of old death. The lines of dark blood trailing his cheeks like stigmata give the one fencer an image of sanctity, one that his underlying power only enhances. Cadiz does not move and neither do we, because our mutual status is yet to be determined, and if we fight Cadiz, we will be crushed. Of this, I have no doubt. It starts to snow. When Cadiz finally comes to, I politely request to drink his tears as the lure is simply too strong. Unfortunately, he flatly refuses. We do not know each other. You have no right to ask me. Have the devils forgotten all propriety? I do not react to the cheap jab, mostly because he is right, but partly because I am forced to jump on Cern, our guide, as he tries to scamper away. The Winter Fae has shown his ability to survive against all odds, and only an idiot would fail to see that we sympathized with his obvious enemy. Just so we are clear, I am not attacking my kin. I have no reason to, and it would be suicide, I inform my allies. You speak their tongue. Good, Cadiz says. While we talk, Cadiz kneels and takes a curious pen out of a slot in his armor. The seeker focuses on the ground and begins tracing strange signs on the marsh's wet loam. His explanation only comes when he realizes we are all staring. If we do not have to be concerned about the beast of Ymir, we can prepare for the inevitable battle. I will provide support and stop him from erasing us from each other's memory while you two fight him off. Can we count on your brethren's help, Ariane? Can we? I asked the interested Mon. That depends. Tell me of our world. Tell me what the old horror is planning. I sigh and sit by his side. It will take a while. I highly suspect that Cadiz is not on Nirari's side, given his choice of words. I also suspect that he might be less friendly than he appears for now. After determining that he left the planet a century before my human birth, I give him a brief recounting of recent historical development. The cruel fate of the Spanish Empire upsets him greatly, though my reports on the success of his clan seems to ease his mind. He takes my compliments on Jimena's character with jaded indifference. Naturally the Khadis are honorable and perfectionist. I expect nothing less from my offspring, and if they had failed to accomplish even this, I would have had to treat them like the white God treated Sodom and Gomorrah. I flinched at the mention, causing him to smirk knowingly. Your sire dislikes him as well. It irks him to no end that empathy and love could create a force that even he cannot contend with. Enough of this. What are your plans concerning him? My plans? Claws grab me by the collar, dragging me forward until we are quite close. They would be on my neck if I were not clad in the protective embrace of the Aurora. Nevertheless, the message is clear. Or it would be, but a naked blade comes to rest under Khadi's neck. Keep your distance, Sanayad states calmly. You do not want to face me, Khadi's replies. The progenitor's understanding of child phase less than my own. I expect he never received a formal education. I also expect he has little interest in mastering it, or he would have. Khadis can focus on a goal with more intensity than anyone else, thus making them adept at learning new disciplines. I lower the tip of Sanayad's blade and push Khadis away, gently. He allows it. Let us stay calm. Thank you for your help, Sanayad. I appreciate it. And you, do not raise your hand on me unless you intend to fight. I ask for the same basic respect you expect from me. Khadis glares. I do not relent. Eventually, his expression softens. Good. You have a spine, even when you know you cannot stand against me. This bodes well for the future. So, will you help us? No. I am flabbergasted by the immediate answer. Duke Nash is dangerous. Do you not wish to see him gone, then leave this dreaded place? I ask. You misunderstand two things. First, I came to winter of my own accord and, so far, it has delivered exactly what I expected of it. Secondly, I do not fear Nash. He fears me. I look down at his tattered appearance. I expected difficulty and that is what I got, child. Not all of us crave comfort. He does want you dead. He wishes me dead, but he will not get it. I have already fended off all his attempts against me, though I suspect foul play since some of the fights I remember seem not to have occurred, or at least, I can no longer find the bodies. Who did you slay? His son. I must exert some self-control at the realization. Did Nash remove his son from the memory of everyone else, including his daughter? What a dreadful proposition. Unaware of my horror, Khadis continues his tale. I have come here to perfect my understanding of the blade, child of the Devourer. When I stepped through that portal, I did so because I heard the echoes of battle. Battle I found here, and plenty of it. There were more masters of the arts of war on that field than across Christendom over its entire history. I fought them, and I learned much. But I found a mountain I could not climb. The sovereigns? Even before them, their children stood before me. They were part of the mantle. Some were more than most. Some, in turn, have weaved their own with the concepts they hold most dear. This is a rich land, child, ripe with revels and bloodshed. One could battle a millennium and still find oneself surprised by an opponent. I once fought a fishman who used a conch as a weapon. He almost killed me. The pale man tilts his artist's head, hooded eyes dreamy from the reminiscence. I lack power to contend with the strongest of them, because a blade does not suffice when an opponent wields the world around themselves. And so I have grown, and learned. I came here to fight beasts, the cold, and isolation, and I did. Duke Nash hired me to rid his winter fields of the beast of Ymir, a fearsome frost drake as large as an elephant. He sent his son with me. We fought the creature and bled it to death. Its blood smelled sweet, though I could not consume it. He leans forward. Obviously, they betrayed me to avoid payment. I slew the son in single combat. I think. The memory is hazy now, like a barely remembered dream. I slew him and his entourage. I left their bodies where they had fallen. In a clearing. I returned there and it was as if he had never been. Yet I remember the taste of his blood and the intensity of the fight when our blades met. I killed him and then he never was. I do not understand how I was robbed of this fight. I relay Khadi's words to Karaz, who nods. This explains much. I do not believe Duke Nash ever suffered such a meaningful humiliation. To be defeated and lose one's heir on their own land is a terrible blow to his power, and thus, his person as well. Perhaps it would be enough to lead to a coup. He would not be the first to succumb to the temptation, and call the Dark Court to his help. This does not explain why you will not fight, I argue. His refusal frustrates me, not because I fear Nash, but because I feel like I am being used. Why did you come here? Khadiz asks me. I am on a mission for the seekers of stolen memories. He waves my words away, annoyed. No. Do not pretend to be obtuse, child. If I ask you where you are, you will not answer on mud-soaked grass, will you? Why are you truly here? I glare. He does not seem impressed, but he indulges me anyway. I did not come here to take on beasts. My goal is not to defeat sovereigns. It is to touch upon divinity through the pursuit of martial perfection. I do these things I mentioned and many more. I train and practice until my mind numbs from repetition for a purpose. My purpose is perfection, as unattainable as the stars, which is why it suits me to have all of eternity to pursue it or die trying. I asked for time this coughing, shivering body of mine did not have, and I was granted it by our friend above because I had this purpose. I live for the moment a weapon whistles a hair away from my neck, or when I plunge my blade in the heart of one who thought themselves immortal, because I am just a little closer to an infinitely distant goal. Do you understand? I think I do. Then tell me, what is your purpose? Should I tell him? No one ever asked, but I do not think I mind him knowing. Not considering his aversion for my sire. I want to prevent my sire from ascending to godhood and plunging Earth into an eternal war against the spheres it has no hope of ever winning. And? Have you worked tirelessly, year after year, to fulfill that goal? Has it occupied your every night? I do not reply, but Khadiz still draws the conclusion. You are complacent. You have worked hard and faced difficulties, I can tell, or you would not be a lady. You would bear scars if our bodies could. But you do not understand what it means to pursue a purpose with unerring focus. The Khadiz essence you stole gave you the tools but not the mentality. You are just a passenger cruising on the waters of destiny, hoping to one day float across a solution to save you from the falls at the end. You will never succeed, at least not without my help. You assume much. I am old, child of the Devourer. Older than any of us save the first, thanks to the way time acts here. You understand it in your mind but not in your essence. I can smell the fresh-faced accidental immortal and even the way you tolerate those Lycians to give you orders. You smell of uncertainty and doubt. There is no clear vision in you, only a vague, ultimate goal you tell yourself when you search for meaning. You are a dull blade. Are you quite done? And you are here for dragon blood. I glare. He speaks too much. Even I cannot face your sire, he says. Even after this training. Khadiz smirks and extends his arms. Power is a fleeting, situational thing. Mastery of the blade is another. The first of us does not even need technique, though he has it. His Magna Arca is truly a wonder designed to kill us, and it perfectly reflects his personality as well. I lean forward, unable to mask the excitement blooming in my chest. What is it? We have no records. Can you tell me? You have no records because I am the only one who ever survived it. Why would I waste a minute of my time explaining it to a dead spawn walking? I would argue that he already wasted more than that flooding my ears with his verbal incontinence, but judge it might be counterproductive to point it out. Unless Sviatoslev's personality has changed drastically, and he comes here, you have the best chance of facing him and living live out of everyone else in the world. The dragon blood you seek will not be enough to bridge the gap, however. You will eternally be playing catch-up unless you can make your time more valuable than his time by a large margin. I have spent years in training before. With classes and several professors and a strict schedule. It counts as training, I grumble. It certainly is efficient in churning out dozens of unimaginative, doctrinal fighters. I will grant you that, child. My name is Ariane. You have no name until I have decided. HSSSS. If you will not help and if you have nothing to contribute, at least contribute by your silence. Foolish child. I am explaining what I expect from you as my disciple. My surprise must be obvious. You are the only valid candidate I have had in eons. Surely you do not expect me to let you go to die a useless death, dooming our world in the process. You cannot be this foolish. I have not agreed to anything. Whatever you say, child. As a starting practice, you will defeat Duke Nash while your allies keep his minions occupied. Both kinds. What do you mean, both kinds? He will be here in 5 minutes. Do not disappoint me. And with this, Cadiz disappears, the only traces of his passage footprints upon the water. I have no idea how he managed that. Charming. Is he one of your kin? Cadiz asked as he finishes drawing. He says he won't help. And that Nash is coming with 2 different kinds of servants. It would not surprise me if Darkness Court renegades had come with him. They would not waste an opportunity to slaughter an isolated seeker. I can handle them. So the Shadow Court disapproves of the practice? I ask, suddenly curious. Those that survived the purge have forsworn it. Now is not the time to explore their lore, however, Cadiz gently chastises. They are coming. The 2 princes draw their blades while I take point. The fog covering the marshes writhes, caught between the modest heat of decay and the cold of the winter sphere. The temperature drops slightly. The snow gains in intensity, the thick, cottony flakes dancing in hypnotic patterns. Silence descends upon the glade, as even the most clueless beasts must have sensed the bloodshed to come. I decide to release my Magna Arca, aware of my previous decision to use it more so I can improve my control, and not because Cadiz must be watching. My improvement is my own duty. The sphere expands. Immediately, the weather loses its meaning. Now just one more aspect of my domain. I sense the presence of Cadras behind me as an unyielding crystal pillar that only death can shake. He is restraining himself not to hurt me. Nash is coming. The world speaks to me of his passage. It recognizes him as its master, for now, and us as intruders. It stills. A massive shadow emerges from the fog wall, then the vaporous curtain parts before the fur-clad, armored form of Duke Nash of the Winter Court. His dark iron armor shines ominously under the dim light of the setting sun, while he holds in his slender hands a vicious axe carved with a wolf head. His retinue follows. Hollow-eyed retainers advance, their steps certain yet lacking the predatory grace of their court. Their silvery scale armors look tarnished even from this far away. I feel slight disturbances in my sphere, but it is Cadras who reveals our hidden foes with a flick of his hand. I suddenly perceive them, not in a way that they were invisible and now revealed. I had forgotten them while Cadras had not. Their ability reminds me of Mr. Elusive, the sharp-eared and pointy-nosed whose assistance had been useful during the Dverfortress heist. While he had been meek, hunched, and spindly, those are muscular and predatory beings, clad in tanned skins. They only want to be forgotten so they can better stab me. Their grins reveal yellow fangs and an eagerness to inflict pain I have seen in the most damned of rogues. They are not my targets, however. Mine swings the axe casually on his back. The circlet bearing a stone on his head reminds everyone who rules on these lands. So you knew. I suppose it saves me the pain of tracking you down. You should have known better. How the memory thieves always manage to fool more people is a mystery I shall never understand. Cadis spits in an uncharacteristic display of emotion. I would have expected a duke to be less short-sighted. Look at your men. They are husks. Is this what you wish to rule over? His face twists into a rictus of disgust. Duke Nash merely shrugs. You are strangers here, so I shall explain for my own entertainment. Rules. Domains. Reputation. Those are all shiny layers of civilization we put on to play with this other sphere. There is only one truth to Winter. His mouth widens impossibly, the jaw opening to his ears to reveal grasping fangs while his eyes shine a cold, sapphire light. I hunger. I eat. I desire. I take. I anger. I kill. And he attacks. I rush to meet him, rose brandished against his monstrous axe. I angle it to deflect the downward blow and am pushed back, sliding over the muddy groan. Roots rise from the earth to stabilize me against the second blow, which comes immediately after. My counter hits the aft, the next the blade. I strike fast to overwhelm him and prevent him from using the much heavier weapon. At this close range, I actually have the advantage by denying him the opportunity to strike. Even then, it is difficult. He is fast. Perhaps even slightly faster than me. While I finally pushing him back, a blue light shines from the blade. Shred. Awaken. My spell hits the head of the axe as it roars and teeth appear on the blade. An arc of cold energy arches out, freezing everything in its way. Nash takes a step back, out of balance, and stumbles on a root. Others lash at his back, grinding against the armor with a shriek of tortured metal, but Nash shines and the appendages free solid. Ugh, why do all strong combatants have a way to dispose of my precious roots? Frustrating. Incensed, I charge, only to leap back when his axe slams into the ground. The blade turns the earth into shining permafrost. I cast Promethine and Constantine's chains wrap around the handle, pulling Nash off balance. More roots lash at him. While he struggles, I lunge, rose slicing against his thick chest plate and damaging it. Nash roars and I disperse the spell before he can pull me in, then raise a wall of thorns to block an expanding ball of chilling energy. He strikes through the frozen roots and my turn comes to be pushed back, until more roots grab me, then help me slide against the follow-up. I carve a deep groove in his knees armor as I pass him by, but he has already turned when I attempt to press my advantage. Our exchange continues for a while and I let myself sink in the pleasure of battle. Nash is such a strong fighter, cunning and aggressive, just like me. Our dance is a breathless tango on a rope above the abyss, each strike vicious and decisive, each parry performed to allow for a faster counter. Finally, I manage to wound him by striking his shoulder where the armor had been weakened by a previous strike, but the return sweep sends me rolling on the ground. His attack pierced right through the aurora, to my mounting horror. He hit my flank. The blood has already frozen, and I can feel a numbing chill seeping into my essence. I must combat it. More importantly, I cannot be hit by that thing again. Cold take you, Nash hisses with his distended jaw. In answer, I lick the blood on Rose and smile. His essence is so very concentrated, and so relatable. The cold in my vein fades away, stepping back to let the two of us contend for supremacy. Such is the way of the Winter Sphere. Nash smiles and charges again. He is in his element. And even faster? No, I am slower. The more time passes and the cold of this place grows. Frost appears on my roots and even they become sluggish. A quick look at my mind palace shows frost-kissed white flowers and icicle-covered statues. I intended to keep them as a hidden ace, seeing how fast and destructive Nash is, but it appears they will be too slow to even be that. You found out, Nash whispers. The words carry through the din of battle, even as the two princes contend against their foes. The mist rises and becomes a powdery diamond, thick and freezing. They chill my essence as the sphere around me contracts in pain. You are strangers here, and your kind always falls. You come to winter expecting a battle, but you find a freezing hunt, and an empty, hungry world. You understand cold, but you do not understand winter. I smell your craving for life from here, little moth seeking the light. You still have bonds and friends and other useless things to drag you down. You have come with others, but you will die alone. You are strangers here, and your kind always falls. Your flesh will nourish us for one season. You talk too much, I retort, but only an empty chuckle is left behind like the ghost of a traitor's kiss. Winter gathers around Nash. He is right. He is right, and I cannot face him the way I would face a lord back home. The world is with him unless I can reverse the narrative. The sphere of my Magna Arca retracts again, punished on all sides by the howling blizzard. Nash stalks me, waiting for the perfect opportunity. He will strike as I am the weakest, but just before the princess come to help. The sound of battle has gone. I realize it for the first time. Silence has replaced the clash of blades and the roars of magic. Only the howling wind breaks the hush now. Another trick of the world. That is fine. I know how to face him. As strange as it is, his words in Lycaon carried power in the world became what he envisioned because he spoke them. I am different. I am not a Lycaon. My power comes from another source, and yet, Winter will not care. Whatever works for him will work for me, if I can formulate it properly. I do not need grand declamation since, again, Winter will not care. The shorter the better. The clearer the better. Nash claimed the title of wolf. I will claim the title of hunter. After all, it is what I am. I whistle, and the distant woods shake with the thunder of familiar hooves. The world's most noble charger canters by my side. She knees, and I mount her smoothly. New Surreyhin. Ghostly light spreads around to illuminate the diamond powder, but only to my eyes. No one else needs to see. You hide, because you are prey. You run, because you are prey. You talk, because you are prey. I will ride after you under the watcher's gaze. I will find you. I will eat you. I have no need for Lycaon tricks. I am what I am, and what I am is a huntress. I am coming. It works. YESSSSSSS. The roots break the frozen earth and crawl after the tracks we see, the scent he left behind. We move in a wave as unyielding as the turn of the seasons. My hungry lights flicker after the running beast. I wish I had Sivea's spear. What am I talking about? Of course, I have Sivea's spear. Am I not a huntress? And here it is, silver blade lit by purple radiance. The fog parts when the roots tear it apart, searching, tearing. Winter is in balance. There is a hunter, and there is a deadly prey. The roles may switch at any moment, but it matters not. Nash no longer controls the story. And we find him. Metis gallops after him. She is considerably faster and more powerful here. I think she may have even grown a bit. We charge him and stab down. The fast spear catches Nash in the smallest gap between blade and eft. I smirk. The power of the spear activates, sliding through his armor like butter and digging into his flesh. I smell rich blood in the air. Before he can free himself, I lift him above my head. Droplets of blood fall on my face. He smells so delicious. He winces in agony while Metis rears. The hunt concluded. Or at least, that is what I hoped for. Instead, clawed, hairy hands grab for the shaft and break it, despite the enchantments. Nash collapses on the ground behind us and coughs blood. His maw has grown even more monstrous. That is Winter, he growls, victory at any cost. I charge again, this time with Rose. His armor cracks and pops, and Sivea's spear tip is pushed out by newly grown, wiry muscle. His shoulder expands ever so slightly, and I realize what I thought was a cloak of fur was, in fact, his skin. What is it with insane foes and abandoning the human form? Ugh. I hope I can still eat him. We begin another type of dance, one where his flexibility and ferocity oppose our teamwork. Metis and I are used to each other. We understand each other. He figures it out the first time he attacks from behind and gets a face full of hooves. I hear the crunch of shattered bones, but when I look, the Duke now has a deformed maw instead of a normal face, so there is little improvement for us. The Duke grows larger the more wounds I inflict, which makes him more cumbersome, more awkward, as his mind struggles with its new form. Some of the movements are too jerky to be natural, and he soon loses the ability to wield his axe. The problem is that he grows immensely stronger to the point where the roots struggle to keep him in place, even as the cold makes them more brittle. I am struggling against an enemy that grows stronger the more I hurt him, and shows no signs of exhaustion. It forges after me through a maze of shredding roots and grasping limbs, tearing itself on it. I flit like a ghost through covered alleys and harry him, but am I grinding him down or forging him into something stronger? Even the essence I take from him seems infinite. He is closer to a standing werewolf than a human now. I wish I could jump on his back and bite him, but his thick coat and fast reflexes make this a daunting prospect. My magic is useless as well, except to deceive him. It is useless. He draws from the land, a voice says from behind. Cadmus emerges from the darkness with his halberd bloodied. He inspects the torn battlefield with calm. Our only hope is to keep him here and let him exhaust the local essence. Then, we can wear him down. This feels like a poor plan, I complain. Feel free to share a better one. Nash heard our voices. He shakes himself for roots and charges, tearing through the defenses I have set. His sapphire glare meets my eyes and I find an opportunity. Cadmus, can't he still erase us from memories? Not in this state. Then let me use mental magic, please. As you wish. I slam the Duke hard enough to lobotomize a Gabrielite. He reels, and we jump on the occasion. I slam Rose into his chest but fail to penetrate to the heart. The werewolf and Loth statues materialize, tearing into him with little result. Cadmus stabs him in the nose and dances away from a ferocious swipe, ducking under a quickly forming wall. Nash roars and a blue bubble forms around him, and then summer comes. A flash of golden light falls upon the forming attack, dissipating him. Sinead lunges and carves a bloody groove across the Duke's leg, hamstringing him. We pile on and retreat immediately while he heals and explodes in a whirlwind of fang and claw. A curious exchange happens, with me taking more of a support role and protecting the two princes as they demonstrate their martial prowess. Our efforts are not in vain. Wounds accumulate on his body, the regeneration slowing down. Suddenly, he stops and makes a run for it. I try everything. I fight with all I have. Sinead and Cadmus pierce him with 1,000 blows. It is of no use. His maddened form crashes through everything we have like a boulder through a torch. His paws freeze the waters of the marsh on his way to the nearby edge of the trees and we cannot stop him. Finally, he turns around. I am as infinite as the cold. He roars and nothing happens. His wounds barely close. While the expression of fury turns into a growl of frustration, I charge. A shimmer on the ground attracts my attention and I lean to the side and grab Sevea's spear tip, its blade still stained with blood. Cadmus throws his halberd and Sinead his blade in a desperate gambit. I jump at the height of Metis' sprint and land on Nash's monstrous chest, stabbing him deeply. The sphere of my Magna Arca expands, fueled by my determination and the story as it slips from the Duke's grasp. Tendrils emerge from everywhere, the earth itself. They lift his massive carcass in the air and deprive him of the contact he needs. He is mine now, he is outside of winter and inside my domain. His struggles are the death throes of the vanquished. I grab his deformed neck and bite down. He tastes of frantic battle, of a mouthful of hair? What? I hiss when I realize I am holding a wolf's pelt. A naked Nash crawls away and jumps when he realizes I have seen him. Seriously? How many tricks do you have, pray? I complain, spitting hair. Ugh, I have some stuck to my tongue. The horror. The lycanity. He is a dead fae. Nash grabs his axe between naked hands while I charge. The princes busy recovering their discarded weapons. Nash stands to fight. He is back in human form, which I find extremely unfair, though mentioning it aloud would be too hypocritical for me to contemplate. He raises the weapon and gasps. A bluish spear tip emerges from between his muscular ribs, then withdraws. Red blood gushes out. He falls. A woman in full armor stands behind him, an expression of utter vindication on her thin traits. I recognize the princess who had been, entertaining Nash while he received us. His daughter. It appears we can add patricide to the long list of winter's sins, though to be fair, I understand her. After all, I am trying to do the same. Claim complete, pig, she spits. Still, the arrogance. That was my prey. How dare you? I trample the ground on my way to skin that little minx raw, but she stops me by bowing her head, exposing her neck to me. My steps falter. Grace, Melody, Cern says as he kneels by her side. Our guide seems to have made it, somehow. Cadras and Sinead stop by my side. The Hair Prince cleans his halberd disinterestedly. My task in this world is over. I wash my hands of this. You are the offended party, Ariane, Sinead assures me. Make sure to get your due. Winter does not know mercy. What do you wish, supplicant? I ask. For you to leave the duchy and me for 10 years. I grab her by the neck until our eyes are level. I see the ruthlessness in her cruel traits, the same her father exhibited. Anger fills my heart. A supplicant speaks plainly, or they are no longer a supplicant. This is your last chance. I asked for forgiveness for my transgression. You interrupted a hunt. You robbed me of my kill through deception. I helped you, she claims. Seeing my doubt, she explains with more calm than I thought her capable of. I knew he was hiding something. We had one room too many in the keep, and I found missing gaps in my paintings, in my notes. I found gifts. From a man. My brother. I am sure of it. I see pain in her unshaking glare. His memories were stolen. I will never know if we fought or if we loved. I will never find out why I am the way I am, because my most defining memories have faded. How can I understand what I have become? That filthy swine took my dignity in more ways than I ever thought possible. So I challenged him during the fight by claiming the castle, and you completed the task. It is acceptable to Winter. But not to me. What do you wish in return for your forgiveness? Blood was taken, so blood must be provided. Willingly. Cern lifts his head. Would mine suffice? No. Will I survive the experience? You may. Blood offered willingly against your departures, and? Her eyes swivel to the pelt, so I break 2 of her fingers. I will compensate you for it, of course, she replies with calm. Sweat pearls on her brow, the only sign of discomfort despite the fragment of knuckles I hold between thumb and index, the claw poised to snap. How? If I may? I let her go. She searches the marshes for a few moments, but soon finds the discarded circlet that protected Nash from Cadras' assault. She picks the gem and approaches me, then places it against the Aurora's chest plate. The gem disappears through the obsidian surface. I see it sink into depth I know for sure do not exist. Before I can protest, the armor comes to life. It contracts with a ghastly creak. All the imperfect and slightly barbaric details melt away to reveal only the sharpest, most perfectly designed scales of blue. The aurora is now the cobalt blue of a night sky with flashes of distant green far deep under the polished surface. It is much closer to me and denser at the same time. I can move perfectly freely. More importantly, the aura of cold that hurt my allies falls dormant until I need to call it. Its power has increased as well. Now your armor is that of a Lycian princess. Do you find this satisfactory? She dares to give me a mocking smile, knowing I will be forced to admit this as a royal gift. So I give her a feigned smile. We have a deal. I reveal her neck and bite down. Cold. Hunger. Betrayal. The strong do not survive, and the weak do not perish. This is an illusion the survivors tell themselves to justify their victory, but I know the truth. I see the eyes and the backs against the wall. It is treachery and ruthlessness that govern here, not strength. Not individual might. Not even talent. Guile, plain and simple. I used to have a brother. He is lost. Perhaps I hated him, and perhaps I did not. The memories are gone as surely as winter will wax again, not long after those strangers are gone. I hate it here. And I know I will still stay. CERN helped me. There are others, as well. Winter can be huddling together around a campfire, sharing what little warmth there is. My people have forgotten that, and the beauty of the distant mountains. I have not, at least, not yet. I pull back, surprised. I will have time to explore what progress I have made, but that can wait. We can depart now. I feel as if I had forgotten something important. Metis bumps against me, her large form strong enough to push me to the side, as it used to so many years ago. She knees softly. Ah, yes, my dear. That is to say, I do not have my bag with me. Sorry. Her red eyes widen at the gall, the sheer audacity I displayed when I called her to battle without providing a well-deserved snack afterward. She ignores my hands raised in supplication and munches on the hair near my neck, dragging me by the roots. Ow, Metis, stop this instant. You are embarrassing me in front of the cute guys. Alas, my pleas fall on uncaring ears. She ruins my hair then disappears in a huff. Ugh, this is going to cost me 1 month of profit in bison herb and caramelized pig ears when I return to Earth. You have acquitted yourself of this task quite well, Cadrus admits after a moment of confused silence. Sinead remains inexplicably silent, while I expected him to exchange more barbs with the prince. He seems resigned for some reason. We have worked well together and fulfilled our purposes. Are you really congratulating us? I ask. His unfeeling pink eyes inspect me with unusual intensity. I find his focus unsettling. Is it working? I am told the more emotional courts enjoy flattery. You get points for trying. I detect sarcasm. I will assume you are ecstatic and move on to the next step. We simply have to make our way back to the portal. We easily find our way out of the marshes. At the edge, we find a rock, and on this rock, sitting with his elbows on his knees and his head resting on Baldfus, we find Cadiz. His eyes are closed. We have a significant amount of work ahead of us, if we are to turn you into the blade that slays Nirari, he says. Tope continued,